It's a disaster many will never forget. 30 years ago, the Sea Empress silted to one side after running aground off the coast of Milford Haven. It unleashed one of the worst environmental incidents our country has ever faced.
Government inquiry begins into what caused the West Wales tanker disaster.
Maria has dedicated her life to rescuing birds in Pembrokeshire and recalls the devastation caused by the oil spill.
The smell of the oil, it was a terrible, terrible smell. But of course, the main thing was the devastation that it caused to the birds. Because to see them dead, dying, struggling in oil, it was not a pretty sight.
Maria washed more than 500 birds over the course of 6 weeks.
Everybody was jointly and severally responsible for the Sea Empress because we want cheaper fuel, the companies want to make more profit. But at the end of the day, it was the birds that suffered. But then I think everybody felt a sense of guilt.
Here we are at West Angle Bay, one of the nearest beaches close to where the Sea Empress would have ran aground out in the Milford Haven waterway. It would have been carrying over 130,000 tonnes of crude oil at the time, over 70,000 of which spilt into the sea. It's still considered one of Britain's worst environmental disasters. Thousands were involved in the clean-up operation, including John, who still works as an environmental advisor.
Most of the oil went round to Tenby, Amroth, that way, and then a couple of days later it came back again. The tide turned and the wind turned and it pushed it back up onto the north side of the haven, and a lot of those beaches are inaccessible, and you had to chain. So it was a group of, there was like 100 people in a chain, chaining bags of oily material off the beach. They had to build scaffold to get down to some of these coves to get it off.
Local tourism was also impacted in the months to follow, but just like the wildlife did, Pembrokeshire bounced back.
Nature did recover, and I guess that's the positive story, as did the tourism economy, but not through, a lack of graft. There was a lot of hard work, a lot of community spirit, a lot of time, and it's easy to forget that. I think that nature is still very fragile, so even though we did recover, it needs looking after today as it did then, and that's our role as a National Park Authority.
A later investigation led to the Milford Haven Port Authority being fined £4 million. It also led to reforms in how the UK prepares and responds to maritime incidents. A lot might have changed in 30 years, but it's clear the Sea Empress disaster continues to live as vividly in people's minds. Lewis Rhys-Jones, ITV News.